This is the website, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. A whole village of Egyptian Sunni Muslims turned out to burn a house and murder Shiite Muslims that were having a service. It is Monday, June 24th, 2013. I just witnessed the video taken earlier today of a village of Egyptian Sunnis brutally murdering 4 men, Shiites, and burning a home where they were having a Muslim Shiite religious meeting. How evil. The whole village of Sunnis turned out to murder these Shiites because they were having a meeting, and accused them of not being the right kind of Islam. I witnessed earlier last year the armored vehicles running over the Christians as they peacefully marched. Not one person prosecuted. Where is the Muslim people to see that this is following Surah number 9, and it depends who you target. It's straight from Satan. Muhammad learned this from Joshua. When the Jews came out of Israel, they were being attacked by evil tribes that did child sacrifice and attacked the strangers and murdered them. And yes, because the whole village, men, women, and children, participated in this evil, they exterminated whole villages to stamp out the evil and make it safe for children to live and for God's people, which we're all, if we accept the truth of the love of God, that Jesus the Christ came to show we don't need to go to priests or imams, but straight to God. We're all God's children. In God we live and move and have our being. There's nothing outside of God. We're learning God's laws of physics, of chemistry, of cytology, of physiology, of psychology, of sociology. No, you won't learn the truths of child rearing in the university. It's taken over by women's liberation, a stronger evil than your hate. But that was generated over millions of years after man evolved from the jungle. The research shows that hunter-gatherer tribes, up to 60% of the men died from violence, and the main violence was being attacked by another tribe or attacking the other tribe to get the young women. But that was by God's law of survival, because the men that did that had better genetics than the ones that married their cousin or sister. So the little tribes would attack another tribe and kill the men and take the young women. And the young women that manipulated the priest and chief against the man that raped her and took her by force was the one that survived. And these are human traits we have to put up with. But Muhammad learned to use this in an evil, regressive way, like to bring out that evil genetics from an earlier time when men would attack and kill other men to get their young women and dominate the women. And women would manipulate the chief and priest to kill the man that was dominating her. Look at the evil and look at what Jesus came to say. You don't need a priest or imam. You're part of God. You're made out of God's dirt. Wake up and say what a piece of crap this teaching hatred is. Look at Surah number 9. Teach people what a lie, that Muhammad changed his mind and had the Surah of abrogation and all those nice things didn't count. And hate the evil and stop degrading children, making them memorize rather than learning from experiencing, playing in nature, and learning to respect their fathers, because their fathers have developed a culture of working together with others and respecting women as an equal in the home. Yes, the man is the head of the household and the spokesman for the family. Women have very strong properties of taking care of the day. Besides the manipulation, the great apes many of them breastfeed their infants until they have their double molars. A second molar is equivalent to 5 or 6 years old. They don't kill their babies. When we developed language, women learned that the baby was a product of the man raping her. That's a genetic thing. It's in the genes to hate men and have a hate. There are many parts to our brain as it develops. Every life stage is a different stage. The cerebellum, the cerebrum, the amygdala, all different parts, and we're a complex thing. We need to work to bring out the good. We know we can take and breed. I bred the color of guppies I wanted by choosing the parents. We know how to make puppy dogs out of wolves by breeding. Let's start caring for children and get men and women to work together. Men can use logic. They've got 2 billion more brain cells than women. Women that survived were the ones that took care of the day and cared for their home and baby, to make a home for the baby. The men that survived were the ones that planned to defend the tribe, planned to hunt the big animals, planned to attack the other tribe to get new blood, young women. And those are all God's laws. The stories in the Old Testament are allegory. The Garden of Eden was the jungle before, when we were great apes. Adam represents all the development from the amoeba, which just propagated by surviving, and then one amoeba attacking another and creating a new thing called a female, part of one attacking another, and then sexual development. Trees have male and female sexes. But emerging into manhood, where Abraham taught us not to kill our children. And with Moses, put it into law that even kings and priests couldn't kill their children or murder other people with the 10 Commandments, and made a safe place for people to live and people to travel through. Yes, they killed whole tribes that were sacrificing their children to Moloch. Now you've got whole tribes sacrificing their children to Allah. Stop it. Say what an evil it is. Get rid of that evil book that teaches murder. It's an evil theocratic cult. The Muslims have to save themselves, have to say the truth, have to protect their children and the children of all people from being indoctrinated, whether it's the Jews going, or some Christian making their children memorize. Let the children grow up in love. God is love. Stop the killing. Say the truth about the development of children and the difference between men and women. The men that work together were the ones that survived. The hemispheres are separate in a male. Logical and nonverbal pattern intellect is in one and the logical in the other. That's why when a man has a stroke, a lot of times he can't walk or talk, very seldom with a woman, because they have duplication in the two hemispheres, like great apes. It's not because they're inferior. That was what survived. It took care of a day, didn't worry about tomorrow, didn't worry about the past, take care of today. And that's what women are good at. But they have hatred. Genetic hatred for all the violence done to them. And they're willing to abort their children. More children aborted than live births at times in Russia. Please wake up. Jesus, the Christ, died confronting those people who would put themselves between anybody and God. And that we didn't need to sacrifice animals or dogs or anything else. He was willing to pay the price that if we could repent of our evil. But please understand child development. If they don't have that nursing bond and the care and love and the correction of a father that is respected by the mother, they have problems. 80% of the men in jail for violence against women didn't have a meaningful father. Wake up. Make a safe and sane world while we have an opportunity. We need to work together to raise children that are able to love, to go from narcissism. The civilizations have destroyed themselves because every time they got affluence, the women hired wet nurses and babysitters, the affluent ruling class. So they've made a bunch of sadomasochistic, narcissistic, homosexual, whatever. I'm not trying to degrade people that have a problem that they didn't get the foundation to develop, but please understand, if a baby isn't cared for, it dies. If it has a little bit of care, it beats itself, but it stays alive. If it gets a little more care, it cares for itself, and that's all. That's the Renaissance. Look at me. Look at my hair. Oh, I can dance. Look at my violin playing. Look at me. Look at me. I'll entertain you. Look at me. Narcissism. Not able to love anybody else. Have sex with a man or a woman or a dog or whatever. Just narcissistic. And a little more love, and they're able to enjoy friends and play with other children. And first level of love is others like self. And if that's all they have, then they can only grow up to men care about men. Women care about women. It's called homosexuality. Not to degrade the person. At the Unitarian Church, I worked with many homosexuals that wanted to be good people and were good people and would work unselfishly. But they only could enjoy intimacy with their sex because that's the highest they evolved. They really didn't have an attraction to the opposite sex. Little more than that, and there's a little more care in the first 2 years, first 5 years. Heterosexual, the love for the opposite sex, the care for the opposite sex. This is all still for self-gratification. But if there is that ability to care for a mate, the way doves, what a beautiful thing to watch on some of the mating relationships in nature that stay together for a lifetime. And humans can develop to that. It's genetic in the doves, but of course they care for their young. If they didn't, the young wouldn't develop to be able to do that. But the point is, if people are raised with enough love, they're able to love the opposite sex unselfishly in a way that when that love produces a child, the love of the mate is in that love for the child, and it's unselfish love. Where two or more are gathered together in caring for one another, Christ's Spirit is there. God is in us. The living outlook. Spirit is outlook. Have God's outlook. That you're part of God. God is everything. You're like a cell in God's body. Stop this nonsense, this brutal. Look at the video of the brutal murder of the Christians, of the Shiites, of the Sunnis, depending on which group has the power. Justifying murder and hatred. It's satanic garbage. The Quran teaches that. Read Surah 9. Read the Surah of Abrogation. Be honest with people. Stop making your children into little robots that'll murder. I don't care. Look at what the robots they make in India to make, I'm special, I'm the upper caste, and you're garbage. Indoctrinating children with this. It's a crime against humanity. And to not have a child with a nursing, mammalian, breastfeeding mother for a couple of years is a crime against humanity. You need to choose your mothers well. My uncle had a mink ranch. Anybody that is in mammalian farming knows the way you're successful is to choose those that had a good mother. You keep them, the others you make fur out of them. Because to be a good mother or a good, healthy male or female, you need a good mother. And yes, to be a good human, you need a good father because of the logic, the future thinking. Man have 2 billion more brain cells and the logical specialization, not duplication. It isn't mean they're superior at some things. Women are superior at others. But the inbred hate and the man, the surviving, the one that can be violent. We need to deal with our genetics and work together. The two become one. And in that kind of love that cares for the baby, God's Spirit is there. Where 2 or more are gathered in my name, I am with them. And it isn't just words, my name. It's in this deep mammalian caring. Please, wake up. Reject the indoctrination of children. Reject the book that says cut off their fingers, cut off their heads unless they believe the way you do. Why can you keep teaching that kind of evil to your children? Wake up and save your people. And don't marry your cousin. Respect other people and expect them to respect you. Get together at home. Read about love. Read about what Christ did. Study the history. We've evolved from the apes. Yes, there was a period of violence, hunter-gatherers. No longer just grabbing fruit out of the trees. And then sacrificing children, women not wanting their children because they recognized that was a product of the male, and the hate for male because the males violated them for a few million years. So it's genetic. It's a problem. And the children suffer because of it. All right. Abraham taught us we don't need to go to kill one of our children. He said kill an animal. Moses said everybody, the kings and priests, have to obey these laws, not to murder, not to lie, not to steal. Respect other people, don't commit adultery. That's so the child knows who the father is. Everybody knows who the mother is. It's better if you can have two, but why not have more than one man? That's simply because not to deprive the child of their relationship with their father genetically and behaviorally. So that's the problem with adultery. And Moses gave us the laws that everybody is, even the kings and priests. And the priests made themselves between man and God to indoctrinate the children, to keep a safe culture for children, until Christ came to show love makes a healthy culture. And with the civilization of the Roman Empire protecting human rights, the right to your religion and everything, Jesus was born, the Christ, in that land under law and order of the Roman Empire. It was safe to walk down the street, to go from one place to another. The apostles could travel all over. It was the Jewish hatred for the Christ that punished many of them, and the Roman worship of their gods caused punishment too. But Jesus taught that go directly to God. The allegory is when he was crucified, the veil in the temple was torn in two. Anybody could go through. Before that, it was just the priest. We need to tear down the churches. We need to tear down the synagogues. We need to tear down the mosques. We need to tear down the temples. Worship is love. Family needs to have a meeting where they study loving things like the gospel of Christ and that God is love, and all that history that's recorded from the Jews, and to study reality. Study what's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. It has to do with group behavior. If you're alone, it's not very meaningful. God is not alone. He's many parts, and you're part of him. The meaning of life has to do with group behavior. So why not study sociology? Not the garbage they're teaching in university half the time, but just your own social group, how to build love. And to really do that, you need to understand the brain and the differences between men and women so that you can work together and respect one another's strengths and weaknesses. The man is the spokesman. Doesn't mean, and the positions of the man and the woman need to work together to be leadership, to be an example to others. Yes, everybody can have a job, but to be in control over other people, you need to be a role model. By their fruits you shall know them. We need to choose couples that are successful at raising healthy, caring children that can raise healthy, caring children. That's who we need to choose for our leaders, for our representatives, for our judges. Please wake up. Look at this video of murder again and see the evil. Start having weekly home meetings where your family caring invites that spirit of caring. And the man is the head of the household because of the logic, because of the genetics, the 2 billion more brain cells. But the man is responsible and needs to listen to the woman. If he's violating the home, that there's no safety or peace in it, then he needs to wake up, and there need to be other men to talk to him and straighten him out. Especially boys need a father in order to be a father. Just like everyone needs a loving, nursing, mammalian bond with their mother to be a healthy male or female. So let's stop indoctrinating children. Let's stop sending them out of the home to early childhood care. Let's build individual family homes where children can play out in nature and with one another. So to learn group behavior, we need to know individual behavior, men and women. We need to know the brain. And then we can study cytology, how the nerve cells grow, nerve growth factor present. Very important, easy to learn. Children can understand it. It's like a tree growing when nerve growth factor is present. And chemistry, we live in chemicals all the time. We can talk about and show a reaction of lighting a match. At operationally defining things. Oxygen is a gas that will cause a glowing splint to burst into flame. No other gas will do it. Not just using words, but operationally defining words, learning how to have true speech. And physics, the atoms, it's so nice we understand these things about how God exists, and God's laws of physics, and the mathematics, and the computer to animate the model that we make. Be careful, there's still a lot of garbage being taught with statistical significance at the university. That still can't understand the moon hit the earth and spread out Pangea, which was facing the sun. But it will all be discovered, and the Coriolis effect moving the masses towards the equator. It's all there. Along with in the university is the garbage of plate tectonics, and the plates move because of the Coriolis force moving them towards the equator. They were spread apart by the moon hitting the earth from behind, putting the earth spinning on its 24-hour day. Before that, it faced the sun. All of these things we can learn. But the reality is the earth is going to be destroyed. Look at the moons and where rain hasn't erased the record of all the collisions being struck by space debris from exploding stars. And our star, our sun, will explode or implode, but the earth is going to be destroyed. We're part of God. We could learn to work together. We're learning so many things. People that are blind, we're beginning to be able to hook electrodes to them with sensors that they can have visual response. So many things. We can build new bodies in the future. We can send spacecraft out to escape the solar system before it's dead. We can make large systems that are able to be factories to make things out in space. We have, Jesus said, it's better I go away. I will send you the Spirit of truth, and it will teach you all things and bring in remembrance what I've said. That's what you need to look at on Sunday. What Jesus said, it's better I go away. I'll send the Spirit of truth. That's true science. That's really studying and learning from God. As Paul said, in God we live and move and have our being. So let's study and respect God. We're part of God. And keep intelligence alive in God's body by escaping Earth's orbit, by escaping the solar system before it's destroyed. It gives purpose to life. Why just sit there playing with yourself and selfish, watching television and spending your days until you're dead? Why not make sure that children are raised with love and have leaders that are a man and a woman, the man the spokesman, but by their fruits you shall know them. The laws of child development are not logically articulated well enough, but what works, we can make puppy dogs out of wolves because we know what works. By their fruits you shall know them. Please, get rid of religion. Live in reality. In God we live and move and have our being. And spend time with God, with your family, with caring, with that spirit that invites caring, that you care enough for God, that you'll try to keep life going with a caring, unselfish nature. Hate the sin, but love the sinner. Just because someone's homosexual doesn't mean they need to be murdered. Now, just last week, they let another sex offender out, and he killed an 8-year-old girl in Florida. That's happened in the news in Florida. That's a repetitious thing. Yes, not out of hatred, but the death penalty, not keep these poor people that didn't have a decent foundation that they could grow in caring and respect. Don't torture them, but if it's proven that they have these defects, take them out of their misery and save what's good, not saving what's sick. That's not hatred. It's taking what's healthy and promoting it rather than what's going on today. Rather than caring for the neighbor, caring for your own family, and out of the guilt sending money to Africa. So now in many places the women don't even need a man, and they won't stop learning how to farm because they've got so much free food. Let's wake up. Look at these. I'm gonna show you again the Christians being run over, and just today the 4 men being brutally murdered by the whole village. And I'm going to show you a little clip of a whole village turning out to destroy a church. The Muslim indoctrination of hatred. It's straight from evil. Get rid of it. It's a distortion. Muhammad, 600 years after Christ, Muhammad led caravans, and he learned the Jewish tradition. That he learned that Joshua destroyed a whole community. But that was to make it safe for children and for peaceful people to destroy the evil culture. Muhammad said if they can do that for Joshua could do it for Jehovah God. Well, Jehovah God, that's my Allah, and then we can do anything like that for who doesn't submit to our God. And we're going to build a kingdom. We'll kill everybody that doesn't submit. It's an evil cult, indoctrinating children to be murderers. Stop it. You've got to stop it. You've got to wake up. There's enough good Muslims. They're trying to stand up in Turkey. There's 3 men that were brutally tortured and murdered for publishing Bibles there. And it was Erdogan supporters that did it, and he blamed it on the generals and put all the generals in jail because they were supporting a secular state that people could be Muslim or Christian or whatever they wanted to be. And he's destroyed that and made a mockery of truth. Wake up like some of the Muslims in Turkey and the Turkish in Germany. Now I'll show you the Christians being attacked. I made this recording a little earlier this spring. They were protesting the burning of a church.
بصوا بيجروه بقول بيجروه يا ولاد الكلب يا ولاد الكلب يا ولاد الكلب يا ولاد الكلب يا ولاد الكلب.
With a single murderous attack by an army vehicle, you might just think it was a rogue event. But look what follows.
خدوا دوره واثنين وثلاثه وكانوا بيستخدموا الرصاص الحي في ضرب الناس. ده اللي حصل واحنا واقفين دلوقتي ولسه لغايه دلوقتي الجيش بيضرب في الناس في الشارع. واحد دلوقتي ده مخ عدى عليه بالدبابه. ضربينه بالراحه. ده مخ واحد صاحبنا عدى عليه بالدبابه. واحد قدم لها. اسمه واحد ترجم لها. مش عارف صدقني اسمه، انا ما اعرفش. لا بس هو اخويا، اكيد اخويا يعني. واحد مات في الدبابه. في واحد مات عدى عليه بالعربيه بالمدرعات اللي تحت، عدى عليه.
Again, you still might wonder, is this a rogue event or is it a group conditioning by having children memorize an attitude? Take a look at what follows and you will see the Muslim bystanders beating a Christian and the police and military come to join in. The original video said that the Christian was killed. It's not clear to me from the video itself. From the video, it's clear it's not a rogue individual. It's an enculturated, indoctrinated thing that Muslims are victims of this memorization process before the age of reason. They're robotic. They are victims, and we need to figure out how to help them, to just show that it is a group process, a culture that makes robots. Look at this next video from Kosovo, where President Clinton received a lot of money to have NATO bomb the Christian Serbs that were trying to clear the land that was once their own. And look what the whole village, men, women, and children, do when they have the freedom after Clinton gave it to them and received so much money from the Saudi royals and other Muslims for his work.
Polizia c'hai, Mira dhe pjanë kanë ardhur këtu te Kisha Ortodokse në Besjan për të shprehur revoltën e tyre ndaj ngjarjeve që kanë ndodhur në Kosovë. Mira dhe pjanë kanë ardhur këtu te Kisha Ortodokse në Besjan për të shprehur revoltën e tyre ndaj ngjarjeve tragjike që kanë ndodhur në Kosovë. Mira protestues Llapjan kanë dalur këtu te Kisha Ortodokse në Besjan dhe e dogjën atë për të shprehur revoltën e tyre ndaj ngjarjeve tragjike që kanë ndodhur ditë më parë në Kosovë. căstusit ose diçka tjetër?
Gjithçka kena mujt i kena marrë, mos atë sigurisht për rrugë, e kena siguru rrugën për tash. Tamam pej drejtën profetit që shkondash o mos e protestën se kemi këtë drejtë që të bashkëpunim me ta organizatorët, po tash në këtë
So it's clear we're talking about Muslims being victims of this indoctrination. And it comes from childhood memorization and childhood indoctrination, just like a cannibal culture. In the Caucasus, where we live, it's the peaceful imams and peaceful Muslims that are being targeted as much as it is the non-Muslims, just like in Kashmir, in Ivory Coast, in the Philippines. And these people are victims of a pyramid scheme that now has indoctrination of children, and it is a murderous theocratic cult. To say that, now there are many that would say you have a mental problem. But we need to figure out how to rescue Muslims from this evil indoctrination that they can murder with impunity, and a whole village can turn out to burn a church. Well, let's go back to the situation in Egypt and look at the media, where they claim that it's barbaric Christians that are causing the problem. It might be helpful to understand, if you knew the verses in the Quran that says those who oppose Muslim control are to be degraded as apes and pigs. The verses, I have them read to you.
Surah 9.29 Fight those who do not believe in Allah, nor in the latter day, nor do they prohibit what Allah and His Apostle have prohibited, nor follow the religion of truth, out of those who have been given the book, until they pay the tax in acknowledgement of superiority and they are in a state of subjection. Surah 9.30 And the Jews say, User is the son of Allah, and the Christians say, the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are the words of their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before. May Allah destroy them, how they are turned away. Surah 9.31 They have taken their doctors of law and their monks for lords besides Allah, and also the Messiah son of Mary, and they were enjoined that they should serve one God only. There is no God but He, far from His glory be what
They're
they
talking
set
about
up
the
with
evil
Him.
of worshiping
Surah 5
Jesus
verse
as the
59
Son of
say,
God.
O followers of the book, do you find fault with us for aught, except that we believe in Allah and in what has been revealed to us and what was revealed before, and that most of you are transgressors? Surah 5 verse 60 say, Shall I inform you of him who is worse than this in retribution from Allah? Worse is he, whom Allah has cursed and brought his wrath upon, and of whom he made apes and swine, and he who served the shaitan. These are worse in place and more erring from the straight path. Surah 2 verse 65 And certainly you have known those among you who exceeded the limits of the Sabbath, so we said to them, Be as apes, despised and hated. Surah 7 verse 166 Therefore, when they revoltingly persisted in what they had been forbidden, we said to them, Be as apes, despised and hated.
So, respecting Jesus as the Christ is something worthy of being despised and hated. Muhammad was an antichrist, accepting Jesus just as a lesser prophet. And now let's see what the military has to say, how they deny that there's anything wrong with what their military does. It's not just blaming the Christians as barbaric. The military deny any responsibility for the murders that they did.
On the defensive, Egypt's generals say their men would never intentionally hurt innocent civilians. This was the first time the country's ruling military council explained its actions in such detail. Calling a news conference, they insisted troops were not responsible for the killing of Christian protesters outside State Television building on Sunday.
Here are the indisputable facts. There are civilians who lost their lives, and there's the military police that did not fire because of the beliefs we enshrined in them. That is, that the armed forces can never fire on the people. The orders issued are clear: to exercise extreme self-restraint and not fire. Security elements do not have live ammunition.
The general said had the soldiers been fully armed, the ramifications would have been what he called catastrophic. Activists hold the military responsible for the killing of some 20 Coptic demonstrators in the melee that lasted for hours before a curfew was imposed. People specifically angry over military vehicles crushing protesters to death. But showing reporters different pictures, the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, or SCAF, insisted troops came under attack first. Their vehicles burned, their men, quote, savagely targeted.
I do not confirm nor deny that people were run over, but what I can confirm is that it is not systematic. It's a shame that anyone says it's systematic. It's a shame for anyone to attribute anything like that to the Egyptian armed forces.
Sunday's violence was the worst in the country since protesters forced Hosni Mubarak out of power in February. The death of Christians shaking the country and once again raising the possibility of worsening sectarian divisions. Despite widespread criticism, there are those who support SCAF and will accept the general's narrative. But undoubtedly, critics will be enraged by what appeared to be an attempt to exonerate the army from any blame for Sunday's violence. Families of the victims already planning their own gathering to respond to the military's remarks. Al Jazeera, Cairo.
This is just one facet of violating children. The Muslims are violated as children and indoctrinated into being capable, even as a child, of strapping on a suicide belt and murdering yourself and a number of other people. But how do we put an end to this? And how do we save Muslims from this? The same thing goes on, just not with the deadly, murderous justification, but children. Muhammad learned this tricks from the Jewish that kept a culture alive for 1,000 years without a country, by indoctrinating for 2,000 years without a country, by indoctrinating, having their young children memorize the Torah, and in 1948 give them the Israel back to them, and here's a nation, because they're robots. But same type of destroying the common sense and intuition of children goes on in the caste system in India. What a horrible evil. And some Christian denominations having children memorize rather than learning by their experience. What Paul said on Mars Hill about God. What do you mean by God? God is everything. Matter is not created or destroyed. It's God's eternal substance, and we're all made out of it. And what Paul said, in God we live and move and have our being. Let children grow up experiencing reality, doing physical activity, swings and teeter-totters and merry-go-rounds, and learning to throw balls, and learning to, their curiosity would lead to physics and chemistry and genetics and physiology and psychology. What makes a healthy mammalian human? Many of us are intellectually healthy without the ability to be a mother or a father, even we want to be. Again, woman across the street from my mother wanted to be a good mother, and she had so much trouble. Her child was dying from infant atrophy, throwing up and vomiting. We used to call it marasmus. And the doctor asked her if she couldn't find somebody that could help with a maternal bond. And my mother, from a family of 9 and had 5 children, was willing to take the baby for the daytime, and did, and nursed it and cared for it. And within a year, within the end of a summer, the child was thriving. It doesn't mean it didn't grow up to have severe limits on its ability to be a caring mother, but it physically thrived and survived, as daycare children nowadays tend to do. But we need to help Muslims. We need to rescue children, whether Muslim or Hindu or Christian or whatever. We need to respect children's rights and make it a crime to indoctrinate them, especially when it's to hate others that don't believe what I believe. Let us live in God and learn from reality. God is reality. We're made out of that reality. We're part of that reality. Let's start protecting the rights of children, not to be made into robots like many of the Jewish who rebelled. Muslims rebel, it's a death penalty. Jews rebel, the family just rejects them. So you had a bunch of people like Marx and Engels, and they wanted to make it a better world. And they made this communist structure where took the babies and put them in a community care, and they're sociopathic, narcissistic. That's what happened to wealthy Europe. The Renaissance was a degradation into look at me dance, look at me, look at my dress, because they only developed to the point of narcissism. That's normal to love yourself. But it takes a mammalian nursing bond and a caring father to give a loving culture and to bring a child up to respect others, and to be able to not just love self, love others like self. Homoerotic. Boys like boys, girls like girls, but with a solid foundation. In the teenage years, they become heteroerotic, caring about the opposite sex. And if they have a strong enough foundation, they're able to, out of that loving bond, form a marriage and care for a product of it. Not because it's an egotistical projection like women attending in Europe, single mothers. The most important thing when tested, what's important to you? A job, an apartment, a car, a baby girl, and somewhere way down the line, they're not really interested in having to put up with a man. Their desire for a child is a narcissistic projection of self. And in Freudian terms, although that's antiquated now, but an ego trip. Not able to grow to love a man, not able to grow to the unselfish love that would nurture a child and allow it to grow in an experience and security of a loving home. That's a different thing. They're putting them in daycare. That's what happened to Renaissance Europe. The children were raised by wet nurses and babysitters and grew up sociopathic and narcissistic. And that was the upper class that inherited the power. And they call it the Renaissance. Look at my art. Look at this. Look at that, what I did. Look at me. It was a degradation of the farm community. The individual family farms are always what has raised the healthiest children, and the care and admonition of their parents, and a respect for eternal life and hope that we can make it a better world. Thank you. All right. Thank you.